Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/EntitledKarens. In today's episode, EP tries to bully a platoon of infantrymen in DC on the 4th of July. Learns the errors of her ways. I live with Karens. My first Karen encounter on my motorcycle. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. EP tries to bully a platoon of infantrymen in DC on the 4th of July. Learns the errors of her ways. Backstory: joined the army right out of high school. During basic training, I volunteered for a unit within the army known as the Old Guard. TOG. From here on, TOG is responsible for ceremonies in the DC area and funerals in Arlington National Cemetery, amongst other duties. TOG consists of units you may have heard of, such as the U.S. Army Drill Team and the Sentinels of the Tomb of the Unknowns, as well as lesser-known platoons such as the Presidential Guns Salute Battery and the U.S. Army Continental Color Guard, and is the oldest active unit in the Army. I only say this to emphasize that TOG isn't some unheard-of rifle company from BFE, it's a fairly big deal in the Army and in the DC area in general. Story time. So no shit, there we were. It's the 4th of July in DC. Big celebration, all kinds of stuff going on, I'm sure you can picture it. Most of the celebration goes on in front of the Capitol on the National Mall. As part of the festivities, my unit, the Presidential Guns Salute Battery, fires the bassline for the performance of the 1812 Overture. 3-inch anti-tank guns firing blanks, only the more seasoned guys in the platoon get picked to do it, so the rest of us are given a cordoned-off area in the very front. We bring some food, some chairs, our families, and we have a cookout during the day and watch the show when it starts. During the earlier parts of the day, it isn't too crowded, but as evening draws near it becomes packed in nearly shoulder to shoulder. Fortunately, as I mentioned before, we had our own area at the front roped off from the general public, giving us ample room to have our cookout. Perk of working for the government: throughout the day we would have people politely ask if they could join us. We said no, but we're always respectful. We weren't in uniform, but we had our unit t-shirts on, so we were still representing the army. Enter Karen. It's midway through the afternoon, still a few hours before the show. We're enjoying the weather and the time off. I happen to be near the edge of our area when I hear someone behind me. I turn around and there she is, pinched face and a haircut that says, "I want to speak with your manager's manager." Karen: "Excuse me, young man, could you ask your father to take this rope down? This is supposed to be a public area for everyone and my kids can't see the Capitol. Mind you, there are signs hanging on the rope every 5 feet explaining the purpose of the rope." Me, with my best PR smile: "I'm sorry ma'am, this area is reserved for members of TOG and their families. If you'd like to come back a little closer to dusk, we'll be taking the rope down around then." Karen: "TOG? I've never heard of that before." Me, always happy to drop knowledge: "Ma'am, TOG is the primary ceremonial unit for the U.S. Army and escort to the President of the US of A." Karen: "I don't see the President. Shouldn't you be escorting him or something then?" Rolls eyes. Me: I had no idea how to respond to that. Fortunately I was saved. Platoon Sergeant, PSG. From here on, places hand on my shoulder: "Good afternoon ma'am, I'm Sergeant First Class Guy in charge," obviously made up name. "What seems to be the problem?" As I knew this was my cue to GTFO, I went back to my chair and observed their interaction. Couldn't hear anything, but the interaction concluded with Karen walking away looking annoyed. Didn't think anything else of it until about 2 hours later. We're cleaning up our trash, breaking down the chairs and tables and such. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Karen approaching again, this time with 2 Capitol police officers in tow. PSG must have noticed too. I heard him mutter "what in the foo** under his breath as he walked to intercept the trio. I didn't hear all of the conversation, but we all heard about it later. PSG: "Officers, what seems to be the problem?" Cops, obviously exasperated by the situation, Sergeant Guy in charge, we received a report that your soldiers were making lewd gestures and comments towards this woman's family. Is there any truth to this? PSG laughs. Absolutely not, I've been supervising them all day, nothing even close to that has happened today. Cop's sad face nodding as though this was what they expected. We had assumed that, but we had to follow up. Sorry to bother you. Karen, you mean you're going to just let them sit there and hog up all of the space? I drove my kids 9 hours to see this. Cops and ma'am, these men are here with the expressed permission of the Capitol Police and the District of Columbia. There are signs there, points to a sign not 3 feet away, that explicitly state that. PSG, trying to defuse the situation, ma'am, we're cleaning up our area right now, as soon as we are done we will be removing the rope to let everyone in. If you can be patient and wait, we can get you and your family right up front here in about 20 minuets. Karen proceeded to stare at them, much like a cow stares at an incoming train. Then she spun around and walked away without another word. We think it's all over, we go back to what we were doing. We were wrong. We're just finishing up, taking the ropes off of the pylons and stacking the pylons in the arms of another dude in the platoon. Out of nowhere, here comes Karen, trailed by her 4 children and obviously stressed spouse. I'm assuming spouse, could have been boyfriend or baby daddy, it's about time. Get out of my way. Karen all but screams as she goes barreling right through Private another guy. Gotta pause here for a second. To be in TOG you have to be between 5 feet 10 inches, 178 centimeters, and 6 feet 4 inches, 193 centimeters, and maintain the Army standard of physical fitness. To add to that, TOG is an infantry unit. If you aren't aware, infantry are generally the frontline soldiers in combat, and we are trained for just that. So, suffice to say, none of us were small, nor weak. Karen was probably around 180-ish. So when I say she barreled through this dude, I mean it. She put some force into it. Another guy goes sprawling to the ground, steel pylons fly in every direction. A couple hit him in the face, chipped a tooth and split his eyebrow open. One pylon bounces off the ground and hits one of Karen's trophies in the leg. The kid, probably 12 or 13, starts wailing like he lost a limb. As we are helping another guy to his feet, Karen is losing every last ounce of her shit. Red-faced, screaming about how she's going to sue us for assault, how we probably aren't even real soldiers, how we've ruined her family vacation, blah blah blah. At this point PSG is done with her. If Karen thought she was being loud, she quickly learned there are few things louder than a pissed-off senior NCO. With a single word he quieted everyone within 50 feet of us. PSG, stop. Paused for dramatic effect, that is enough. You have been harassing me and my soldiers all afternoon. We have tried to be nice, we have tried to be respectful. You have been nothing but rude. Now you've injured one of my soldiers. This stops now. I think Karen might have had a small stroke right then. She stood, mouth agape, not able to utter a single word. And then, as if right on cue, here come those 2 Capitol policemen. They hadn't been far away, and had seen the entire incident. I didn't think Karen's eyes could get any wider, until the first officer pulled out a pair of cuffs and said, "Ma'am, turn around and put your hands behind your back. You are under arrest for assault and harassment." She tried every excuse she could think of, but the cops were having exactly none of her shit. They talked to another guy, he wanted to press charges. So they carted her off. I don't know what the father did with the kids, they disappeared when the cops took Karen. Come to find out after another guy comes back from the court hearing, Karen had been carrying 3 bottles of pills that weren't hers, and 2 stolen credit cards when the cops searched her. No idea what kind of time she got, but it wasn't enough. After all was said and done, we watched the 1812 overture and laughed about Karen for weeks afterward. Another guy was fine, a chipped tooth and a little bit of bruising. Nothing major, fortunately. Here's a great idea, let's go piss off a couple of trained soldiers. That can only end well. I was hoping for more violence. I've watched the honor guard at Arlington Cemetery once before. I was amazed by the skill of the slow march, and the volume of the "you corporal I think" voice that he used when some tourists were getting too chatty. I even had a chance to approach the officer in charge and ask if it was possible for me to place a poppy and some of my dad's ashes in the cemetery. He was an officer in the British Parachute Regiment and the other Parachute Regiment. He was very respectful and explained that it was only for America Armed Forces, but he did take the poppy I had and said he would place it appropriately. Dang, there are people like that? To y'all, that's real messed up in a number of ways. It wasn't a type of person I had encountered before that day, and I'd like to say it was the last time. But it definitely wasn't, lol. Question: am I allowed to say thank you for your service? Because I am not American, but Australian. And secondly, is there usual someone this crazy during America's holiday? You are allowed to thank anyone for anything you want, man. Thanking someone for committing a portion of their lives to serve others is independent of nationality. I will accept your thanks, and thank you as well. To answer your second question, I think there's someone crazy every day, lol. Holidays just bring more people together in one place so you can see the crazy stand out from the rest. Brendan Nelson, director of the Australian War Memorial, began a campaign last year to say thank you for serving to Australian active duty and veterans. It didn't get much traction, but I'm sure our guys will appreciate it. Apparently, none of those pill bottles contained antipsychotics. Yo, I'm in the Air Cadets, I know what you mean by a pissed off NCO. The only thing louder is a pissed off, we call, squadron leader. Wow. Just wow. How lost in their own world are people? Nice name BTW, lol. Thanks man. Yeah, for real. It's like the fact that we were actually soldiers was just too wild for her simple brain to handle. I live with Karens. It's my grandparents' 50th anniversary. We go to nice-ass restaurant that's inside a literal castle. Not even a minute after entering, my mom complains about not being able to make reservations. The waitress takes us to our table, but then my mom and grandma see a booth with comfier seats. They ask if they can sit there instead. The waitress explains that we can't sit there because the owner's friends already reserved that seat. Then my mom complains again about how she tried to reserve seats. The waitress was being nice and tried to set up another table. Then we left. And now we're going to Texas Roadhouse. I hate Texas Roadhouse. They walked out of a restaurant in a castle because they couldn't get the seats they wanted. They pulled plenty of shit like this in the past. I don't know if this is Karen enough for this subreddit, but I just needed a place to vent. It's a pity that you couldn't have marched them out and sent them home to bed with no dinner for being arsey brats. I love their rolls. But I'd chuck them out the window if it meant I got to eat in a castle. Definitely don't grow up to be like them. I don't plan to. I hate people like that. People who work in the restaurant industry already have it rough. They don't need to be harassed. Some folks only happy when they being nasty to others. They celebrated how they wanted. When we used to go out to eat, the hostess would try to take us to a table, but I just stood back and waited, because my ex would invariably request a different table. Should have stayed and sent them to the Roadhouse. Just say no from here on out, and if they care about why, tell them. I wouldn't dine out with people who refuse to be happy and find fault with everything around them. I've expressed my dislike for going out to eat, but they don't care. My first Karen encounter on my motorcycle. As of writing this just happened a few moments ago. I'm not a good story writer, so this is short and to the point. Not exactly recording unlike the flare, but it fit best. So I was meeting up with my mom so she can pick up her motorcycle she just recently bought. I stopped at a DG and called her to find out where she was, and I left and I hear some honking across the parking lot and think nothing of it. Well, my mom was right down the road, so I go down and see some car tailgating me and I don't think much of it, but as I go to stop and turn into the yard, the psycho comes around and blocks me and I almost fell. She rolled her window down and screamed, "Excuse me, were you filming me?" So I responded, "No, I wasn't filming you, you psycho." She starts screaming about how it's her right not to be filmed, so I went back with the "I wasn't filming." At this point my mom heard and came out and screams at her to go on and kicks her car as she speeds off. Your cell phone has film? That's rad. Had some homeless guy screaming at me to delete it. Delete it. Stop recording me. My back was to him and I was taking pictures of the graffiti near some train tracks in the complete opposite direction. Not sure how the hell he thought I was recording him. I tried to show him my phone screen wasn't even on and that I wasn't filming him. He wasn't having it, wouldn't shut up either. Still screaming to stop filming him, so I turned my camera on him and yelled, "I'm recording now." He shut up so fast. I would have done the same to her. Are you in a public space? Then you have no expectation of privacy and can be filmed. This. And the kicker is I was in no way, shape, or form filming. How I was holding my phone, I would have either filled the air or the gas tank. Please tell me you got this on video. I want to see it. I wish I was filming. Maybe I'll get a GoPro at some point. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.